Some lives don't collapse in chaos. They slowly dim in comfort, not because of failure, not because of bad luck, but because somewhere along the way, comfort became safer than becoming who you could be. There is a quiet danger in discovering you are capable of more, and then choosing not to find out. Because potential is heavy, it asks things from you. Risk, effort, exposure. The possibility that you might try and still fall short. Avoidance, on the other hand, asks for nothing. It lets you stay exactly where you are, while telling yourself you could leave any time. And that illusion is one of the most dangerous comforts a person can have. You see it in the friend who always talks about what they might do someday. The colleague who never applies for the position they are qualified for. The person who stays in familiar routines that quietly drain them, because disruption feels worse than regret. Avoiding your potential rarely looks dramatic. It looks responsible, sensible, even humble. But underneath, something slowly hardens, a life half-lived, a self never tested, a quiet suspicion that you are hiding from something and that something is you. This isn't about ambition in the loud competitive sense. It's about the subtle psychological patterns that make stagnation feel safe and growth feel threatening. Because the most powerful barrier to your future is often not external. It is the comfort of staying unfinished. There is a version of you that the world already recognizes. You know how this version speaks, reacts, performs. You know how people respond to it. It is predictable. And predictability feels safe to the human brain. When you consider stepping into your potential, you are not just pursuing success. You are threatening the identity you have rehearsed for years. A quiet student who considers speaking up. An agreeable person who considers setting boundaries. A reliable employee who considers leaving. Each of these moves destabilizes the known self, so the mind produces a protective story. Maybe later. I'm not ready yet. It's not the right time. These phrases sound rational, but often they are emotional shields. Because growth requires identity loss. To become someone else, you must allow the old version of you to feel inadequate. Incomplete, replaceable. Many people would rather remain safely limited than experience that discomfort. Have you noticed how people sometimes downplay their abilities before anyone else can notice them? Or joke about their own dreams so they cannot be taken seriously? This is not modesty. It is preemptive protection. If you never fully claim your potential, you never have to face the possibility of not living up to it. Avoidance becomes armor. We often imagine fear as panic or anxiety. But the fear of potential is quieter. It feels like tiredness, indifference, distraction. You tell yourself you just don't feel motivated, that you prefer a simple life. That ambition is overrated. Sometimes that is true. But sometimes it is the mind as way of shrinking the target so it doesn't have to risk missing it. There is a psychological mechanism at work here. Self-handicapping. If you don't fully try, you preserve the belief that you could have succeeded. Your imagined potential remains intact, untouched by reality. A talented person who never commits to one path. Someone who procrastinates until opportunities pass. Someone who surrounds themselves with people who expect little from them. These patterns protect self-esteem at the cost of actual fulfillment. Because a failed attempt hurts more than a life of hypothetical success. Ask yourself, which is scarier, discovering your limits or never discovering them at all? Many choose the second without realizing it. A life of controlled disappointment feels safer than a single decisive risk. Comfort does not announce itself as danger. It arrives as convenience, as routine, as relief. After a long day, you choose distraction over effort. After a small setback, you lower your expectations. After repeated postponement, you stop thinking about what you once wanted. None of these decisions feel significant in isolation. But together, they create a psychological environment where growth feels abnormal. Comfort becomes a sedative. It dulls the tension between who you are and who you could become. You stop noticing the quiet restlessness. The subtle envy when you see someone else take a leap. The unexplained heaviness when you imagine your future unchanged. This is not laziness. It is adaptation. Humans adjust to almost anything, even a life that does not fit them. And the longer you stay in that state, the more unfamiliar your potential begins to feel. Eventually, striving itself feels uncomfortable, like trying to run after years of sitting still, so you tell yourself you have outgrown those dreams, but often you have simply grown used to not pursuing them. Avoiding your potential is not only internally comforting, it can be socially rewarded. When you do not outgrow your environment, you remain predictable, non-threatening, familiar. People who pursue their potential sometimes disrupt relationships. They change routines, they develop new perspectives. They no longer tolerate dynamics that once felt normal. Not everyone welcomes that shift. So staying small can feel like loyalty, like humility, like keeping the peace. You might sense that becoming more will distance you from certain people. So you unconsciously limit yourself to preserve connection, but there is a quiet cost. Resentment begins to form, not toward others, but toward yourself. Because somewhere inside, you know you are negotiating away parts of your life. Have you ever noticed how some people become subtly cynical over time? Not openly bitter, just quietly disengaged. Often, they are not disappointed in the world. They are disappointed in the version of themselves they settled for. Recognizing avoidance is not a reason to attack yourself. This pattern develops for understandable reasons: protection, stability, survival. Your mind is trying to keep you safe from uncertainty, rejection, and loss. The goal is not to force dramatic change overnight. It is to become aware of where comfort has replaced intention. Healthy responses are quiet and deliberate. Honest self-reflection. Small risks that stretch you without overwhelming you. Boundaries that protect your energy. Seeking guidance when you feel stuck. Growth is not a performance. It is a series of private decisions. And awareness is already movement. You do not have to become someone else overnight. You only have to stop pretending you don't see the gap between where you are and where you could be. Because once you see it clearly, avoidance loses some of its power. There's a particular kind of loneliness that comes from not using your abilities. It is not the loneliness of isolation. You can be surrounded by people and still feel it. It feels like living slightly outside your own life. Conversations feel repetitive. Days blur together. You struggle to feel fully present. Part of you is elsewhere in the life you suspect you could have built. This is why some people chase constant entertainment or busyness. Silence makes the contrast louder. In still moments, the question returns: what am I doing with my life? Avoidance answers by turning up the noise. But the question never disappears. It waits. Potential is not a promise, it is a possibility. And possibility is uncomfortable because it demands participation. You do not have to become extraordinary. You do not have to chase endless achievement. But there is a quiet peace that comes from knowing you did not abandon yourself. From knowing you explored what was available to you, even imperfectly. The dangerous comfort of avoiding your potential is not that it ruins your life overnight. It is that it allows you to live a version of your life that feels almost right. Almost meaningful. Almost fulfilling. Almost yours. Until one day you realize the cost was not failure. It was never finding out who you might have been. And that is a question comfort can never answer.